In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make simple shapes which will turn into your designs and patterns. So the first thing that I want to do is talk about the pen tool. The pen tool is the third tool down, and what you can do with the pen tool is just drop points to create any shape. What I've just done is created a triangle. The way that this works, and I just want to point out also that this triangle is pink on the inside with no stroke because the fill box right here is filled in with pink, and the outside box, well, the outline, which is also called the stroke, is empty, so there's no outline. By default, it usually looks like this with a white fill and a black outline. So if we were to create a shape like this, and now if you go over to the first point and hover, you get that circle. That lets you close the shape. To change the colors, you would, with this being in front, you would just change the color, let's say on the swatches panel, like that. To change the stroke, you would want the stroke box to be in front, and then you could change it. I usually turn the stroke off if there's a fill, or I turn the fill off if there's a stroke. You don't usually need both. But anyway, that's how you would use the pen tool to make shapes. You can also make curved shapes by holding it down to get handles. And then if you want to move your shape, you would either use the selection tool, which is the black arrow on top, to move the whole shape. If you wanted to move part of the shape, you would use the direct selection tool, which lets you move just one of the points. So that's how you would use the pen tool. The pen tool is great if you're trying to make a unique shape, let's say like a lightning bolt, or if you were trying to make basically anything that's not just a regular circle or quadrilateral. But a lot of your shapes will be quadrilaterals, so you can use the rectangle tool for that. If you're making a cup, right, you can use this and then choose one of your points to go in a little bit using the arrow tool. Right, that's kind of like a cup, and then if you put this on top, right? So that's using very simple shapes to make other things. If you wanted to make a circle, let's say we wanted to make a bagel, right? We could just use the ellipse tool to drag out, and if you're holding down shift, you'll get a perfect circle. And now something a little bit more complicated is if we wanted to get a hole in that bagel, I guess, or a donut or something. So I'm holding down shift, and now I'm going to position this one in front. We can introduce the Pathfinder option. You'd find it if you have both. You'd either find it by going to Window and selecting the Pathfinder, or if you have two shapes open. Right now this only looks like one because it's two of the same colored shapes on top of each other. But let's say I've filled it in. I gave this top circle a stroke. If I want to cut this hole out to get, let's say, a bagel color, I would select both of these shapes by dragging over both of them. And then the Pathfinder option pops up. And you can experiment with these to see what happens. What I want to do is cut the shape I want to minus the front, and that's going to cut this hole out. So I'm going to use this option, and now I have a bagel. If I want, I can make this bagel light brown with no fill, or with a darker fill, with a darker stroke. There, we have a bagel. Let's say you wanted to make this an everything bagel. We can now use the line segment tool to get some toppings on there. We've got some sesame seeds. Let's say you don't want to keep drawing the same lines over again. What we can do is start duplicating them. And to duplicate them, I've just zoomed in all the way in. And now with this shape selected, I'm holding down Option with a Mac or Alt with a PC. And you should be able to see two arrows. Well, I guess I'm not seeing the two arrows, but I'm holding them down, and then you can just rotate the shape. You can also change the quality of these lines, right? I think that these These feel a little bit too regular to me to be, sesame seeds. So maybe what I can do is select them and change the quality of this line. I can change the cap to be rounded. That will make it look more like sesame seeds to me. You can also change it to be less uniform. That also helps. This would also help if you were making donuts with sprinkles or something like that, or just sprinkles, which is what I did on one of my things. What you want to do to create your shapes, and this is how you'll build out your patterns, is you start off by making a shape, and then you're not going to make the shape a million times. What you're going to do is make the shape once and then duplicate it. If you have two shapes, let's say you're making, for my ice cream cone theme, I can make an ice cream cone, and I think I'm going to make this lighter, but I just hit undo. I don't want to fill in. I want the fill to be empty. What I want to do is make this lighter, so I need to make sure that the fill box is in front. Okay, so I've chosen a color for my cone, and now I'm going to use the color guide to do the rest. I chose pentagram because I think it has the most color variety that I'm looking for with ice cream. I'm going to make strawberry ice cream. And what I'm going to do now is use the ellipse tool, which is underneath the line segment. As a rule, if there's an arrow next to one of these tools, it means that there are other options you can use. So I'm just going to make this shape. It's not in the exact color and it's not the right shape. It's not really right yet, so I'm going to edit it. So I've just changed this color, and I'm using the color guide so that way I know I'm guaranteed to get a harmonious color. And I'm going to use the direct selection tool to choose one of these arrows, one of these handles, one of these points, and I'm going to move it up because I think this looks more natural. And then I just bumped it down. Another option I could have done is chosen this over here and moved it up to match. That way it would look better. And now, in addition to that, I want to make an ice pop. I'm going to make a lemon ice pop. I think that's a pretty good color. I'm going to stick with that because I think it's doing okay. And I think that my lemon ice pop should have rounded corners. To do that, I'm going to take advantage of these little handles and pull them in. It's kind of a cheat, but it does work. And now I need to get a nice stick for my lemon pop. I want that lemon pop stick to be brown. I'm going to make that stick the same color as my cone, so that way it'll look a little bit more unified, and also why you introduce an extra color when it's not necessary. I want this cone to be underneath my lemon pop, so I'm going to drag it below. You can see in the layers panel the order of how things are. And now I can make my pattern out of these two. But before that, I think I'm actually going to introduce a little more detail to these. To do that, I'm going to add just a little bit of a little shadow over there. This is actually oh, there we go. By zooming in, I can now make this a little bit rounded as well. I think that's nice. Maybe we can try making it lighter and see if that works. I think that's too light. Let's make it back to there. And now I want to add something over there to my strawberry ice cream. Obviously not the right color. Now it's better. I can move these points around to give it a better shape. There we go. And now that my shapes are pretty much how I want them, the next step would be to turn them into patterns. But the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have shapes that you're happy with. And once you have shapes that you're happy with, you turn them into patterns. One other thing that I want to point out about the Pathfinder is that it's really great for creating shapes on top of shapes, right? Like let's say I wanted to create a shape over here to create this like a shadow over there, we could duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate it one more time and change the color just to make it easier to see what I'm doing. And then I could go here, select both of these, and then I can minus the front. Now what I have here will probably be a pretty good shadow for my other shape, right? They fit together well, and that could be helpful if you're trying to create shadows from as part of one shape to another. You can also resize this. But using the Pathfinder along with the ellipse and the rectangle and the pen tool will help you make some pretty great shapes.